Hello friends, welcome to the Legion Raid Guide series featuring Brelshaza Hard Mode. Brelshaza Hard Mode is a raid where you can enter at item level 1540. Per 2 gates, the item level requirement increases to 1550 and 1560. The raid provides new materials to craft ancient level gears that can be honed further than plus 20. It also provides the stepping stone to upgrade your set bonus to level 3 in the future. This guide series will cover only the critical differences between the two difficulties and personal tips I rely on. Feel free to watch the Brelshaza normal guide if you need a refresher, or check out my friends at Mobalytics to see the written detailed guide for the raid. You can also follow this guide in the game with the new overlay program they have. It breaks down phase by phase and is super helpful for anyone learning to fight. You can check that out below in the video's description. This video will cover Gate 5 and 6. Gate 5's major mechanics have a little bit of twists, with patterns dealing a lot more damage. The shape mechanics are randomly distributed to all players. At 180 lines, check your feet to determine what color you are and what shape you are. Make sure to watch out for additional spikes that can add or remove your stacks randomly, and finish your shapes by line 144. At 140 lines, the placements of the shapes are also random. She will randomly choose either the cross or circle version of the mechanic. Since shapes are randomly given, you must predetermine the shape's placement position. Korean pugs were used to normal Brelshaza's ×3 party number, so they tend to place the corresponding shapes like in normal mode. For example, if you are a star, you are party number 4 for normal mode. So backtracking that information, you place star shape on 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock position. If this is too confusing for you, it is good to predetermine where the shapes are going to be before the fight. While you're getting into position as well, there are also aimed lasers you need to dodge before grouping up with your shape partner. My advice on the laser dodge timing is to keep an eye on the debuff bar. You can start moving when the debuff second reaches to 9 and 5. There's also a cheese mechanic where if you stand right on the corner, the laser won't be aimed at you as well. At 110 lines, the mechanic is exactly the same as normal mode, but there will be total 6 countering Brelshaza phantoms, 3 on top and 3 on bottom. Missing any of the counters will cause a global silence with heavy incoming damage, so you must counter them all. Just keep in mind that the third counter is usually after the stagger is complete, so make sure to focus on the first 2 counters. When Korean pugs generally got overgeared with lots of DPS, they started to use Esther and Nana here, to ignore the counter as a whole and focus on stagger to have safer mechanic execution. But if you happen to lack DPS and use Azena at the first stun DPS opportunity, Korean pugs used to have 2 players cover top and bottom with 2 counter skills equipped to handle all counters while rest of the members focus on stagger. Afterwards, the Gate 5's cube portion is also the same, but there are additional purple spike projectiles on the left cube and purple ground spikes on the right cube that can hinder your stacks. For the Simon Says stagger afterwards, you will be silenced in hard mode if you step outside the safe lines during the explosion. After the mechanic is complete, there will be enhanced normal patterns. You'll have to do the shape mechanics again until line 51. The second shape mechanics is exactly the same for 141, it's just that when you are finding to put the shapes down, there will be 4 meteors dropping on your head instead of the laser. Make sure you keep moving to dodge all 4 of them, then group up with your shape partner. I also want to mention some normal patterns that are important to keep in mind. She will cast Petrify and Seaweed attack together. Make sure to be keen on the explosion timings. As for blue and red tethers, she casts both of them in hard mode, so it is crucial to communicate when this pattern is executed. Lastly, the suicide bombers also have much larger AoE. Going over to the last Gate 6, this is where the most changes with the new mechanics added to the end. Generally, Gate 5 and 6 requires sufficient dodge and attack performance due to Brelshaza's normal patterns being very dangerous as difficulties change. Especially in Gate 6, the most cause of the raid wipe is from misplacement of the meteors, then failure to perform dodging normal attacks while DPSing. It is crucial to have enough practice in normal mode to prevent yourself making minor mistakes, which can lead to a raid reset. Going over the pattern step by step, Brelshaza will start with the first shape mechanic at 225 instead of sandstorms. Then sandstorm mechanic will happen after the shape mechanic, until 188 when the meteor starts. The meteor mechanic works differently. Normal mode's meteors fall at the same time and at a much faster pace, but hard mode's meteors fall at a much slower interval. It is impossible to do the normal mode meteor layout because you don't have enough time stacking up more than 2 at one tile. Therefore, communication is very crucial here, since meteors are chosen at a much slower pace. No communication will cause confusion on the order of the meteor that will fall, which usually causes the wipes. If you have voice comms, try communicating your meteor positions as soon as you see your feet glows in purple. It really helps during proc sessions because you will feel the timing of the meteors falling down as well. Majority of the Korean pugs meteor orders are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is to distribute it evenly as much as you can to prevent accidents. Now I will cover the meteor placements choices and its thought process to provide you a good reference point to adjust from. The 2 blue meteors after the initial placement is often placed at 11 and 12 o'clock positions, and based on party's DPS, the placement changes a little bit afterwards. The yellow meteor falls around line 137 to 138. Blue meteors have an internal cooldown of 1 minute. The tile recovery is 1 minute and 40 seconds. So if you DPS too far before the tile recovers, it's a raid wipe like in normal mode. Next blue meteor is going to be 3 total. The standard procedure is 11, 11, 6, or 11 spare and 6. Spare is often used if raid members have trouble escaping the tile before it breaks due to tighter timing. If you have voice comms, you will need to call out your spot in order because the timing is very tight. People often experience fall death when meteors are called in a wrong order. After 11, 11, 6, you have to DPS the boss and see the yellow meteor placed on the 12 o'clock position. The next set of meteors are 4, placing it at 7, 7, 5, and 5. Most parties push to Chanmi phase at 113 line afterwards, but if you don't, the next 3 meteors can be placed at 11, 11, 6 again, because the 11 o'clock tile will come back first. The most safe standard procedure that everyone does is to go to Chanmi phase after putting down the 4 meteors at 7, 7, 5, 5. The upper tiles will recover in time during cutscene. At 113 line Chanmi phase, it's the same idea. I would recommend using Shandi here. Meteor placement from this point on can be changed due to the raid leader. Usually people do a tile break on the future yellow meteor side, and leaving as many tiles to 1 HP. Therefore, if you are a 7755 team, the next 3 meteors would be 776, to break the 7 o'clock tile while leaving the top side clean for the next set of meteors. There are 2 more yellow meteors at 87 and 37 lines before entering the last phases. You usually see 2 to 4 sets of 3 and 4 blue meteors based on your DPS, even if your DPS is slow for the 3rd set of meteors. Remember that the broken tiles will always recover first before the 3rd set coming down. Since there are so many preferences and styles people execute, I believe it would be easier if the main thought process is shared with meteors, to give you guys a reference to put everything together to prevent unnecessary wipes. Feel free to read the written guides though, for even more future references. First, never place a meteor at glowing 1 HP tiles unless the raid leader specified for it. Second, always call out your dropping position as soon as you see the meteor being set to you. It really helps. Third, if the next soon-to-be yellow meteored area has any spots left, call it out and place them there. Fourth, don't hesitate to use spares, but make sure to communicate with the team. Even center is a spare for 1 meteor. Fifth, never drop meteors that will impact more than 1 tile. If these thoughts are kept in mind, with sufficient DPS, you'll never have any problems. The biggest reason of wipe is not noticing you're the blue or the yellow meteor while focused at DPSing. Misplacement of the meteor is the #1 reason of most restarts at Korean pugs, especially in hard mode. Everything is about the same as normal until it reaches the 7th line. Brelshaza Hard has one last mechanic. After a long cutscene, the corner tiles are still broken, and she gains 163 lines of shields. You need to drop them all before the time limit. During the fight, the X position will spawn series of meteors. There are 5 meteors in total, 2 are fakes, and 3 are real counterable meteors. You can see where the meteors are going to spawn by looking at the flash of blue light. General positioning is 4 players taking responsibility of each positions, and 1 flex position for the 5th meteor, while the other 3 players keep Brelshaza in the center to prevent unfortunate accidents. The first flash of light will always have 2 meteors spawning in, so flex position must join that side to counter the extra meteor. If you look closely, the meteor will spawn and pulse either red or blue. Tip is to be very patient because it will provide you enough time to counter. Red fake meteors will immediately explode when hit. It has been nerfed so a few auto attacks are okay, but most parties should stop DPS when meteors are being executed to prevent these red meteors exploding in the middle, causing fall death to many players. If you successfully counter it, you will see a blue orb in front of your character. A long blue laser will fire afterwards where you're aiming at. If you aim at Brelshaza properly, you can shave off 14 shield bars. Make sure you communicate with everyone about fake meteors and missed counters as well. Failed counter meteors will always explode in the middle, which can also cause numerous fall deaths. You will have to do this 4 times to fire a total 12 lasers at Brelshaza. When you're able to cut off all the shields through DPS and the laser beams, she will be stunned while a large black hole falls down from the sky. If you take any of the purple orbs spawned around the area, you will not get damage from the impact. Afterwards, you'll need to drop her HP to 0 to see the last mechanic. The last mechanic is very easy finisher. She will stand in the middle and cast an orb in front of her. This orb will spit out small blue ethers when hit. These will provide you damage boost and is stackable. The initial blue orb Brelshaza's casting needs to be deleted in one single shot due to its massive HP recovery. So the main DPS will need to eat 9 ether stacks and cast her strong skill to delete the orb in one shot. This is where you can see some big numbers for some people. Now I will also go over some normal pattern changes that are worth mentioning. The small tomatoes can disable your battle items for a certain amount of time. Be sure to ask for a cleanse if this happens to you. Her large AoE patterns like glass shatter also creates additional circular explosions under you. Be sure to be aware of it. This grab pattern resets a lot of parties because people yield for other players when she grabs. My tip is to stand in the grab zone even if it's being occupied, because Brelshaza will always grab one person anyway. When you're not grabbed, you can just proceed to stagger. This actually prevents a lot of unfortunate resets. For Esther tips, if the party wants to skip the sandstorm, they can use it right after the first shape mechanic. If the party is worried about seeing too many blue meteors because it's hard mode after 188, you can use Azena here to push it faster to 137 for the next yellow meteor. The second Esther should always be Shandi at Chami phase at 112. During Chami phase, your Esther bar fills up once again. Most people use Azena to push more DPS. You can use the Esther right away, even if you're doing the inside mechanic. You can then use Esther and Nana for the second shape mechanic to prevent mistakes. As for the 7th line mechanic, before the nerf, people used to cut DPS and fill up Esther meter bar up to Shandi's left shoulder to use Azena during the meteor mechanic to carve more shields. She has less shields now, so it's not that mandatory, but if your party seems to lack DPS or have trouble hitting the lasers, it might be a good idea to fill up your Esther bar before entering the 7th line mechanic for extra safe play. Lastly, as a bonus, for the photo zone, this is the position. All you need to do is auto attack 5 o'clock to see your character during the cutscene. With that, this covers all the differences and my quick tips for Brelshaza hard. 5-6 a little bit more difficult, but if the majority of the players are experienced at beating normal, it won't be too much of an issue. Just keep those additional patterns and attributes in mind, and there won't be any problems beating the raid. As always, thanks everyone, bye!